Welcome back to this F1 25 My Team Career Mode. This is the pre-season episode for Season 2 2026 in-game. It's gonna be a big old year, and this pre-season video is gonna be a hefty one because we've got a lot to go through. Not only am I going to reveal for the very first time who I've actually signed to be my two drivers, because I've kept you guys in the dark. I did not reveal what my contract negotiations ended up being like throughout Season 1. On top of that, we've got the transfers elsewhere around the grid. With that boosted volatility, we're going to see how good it actually is. Spoiler alert for the end, it is an absolute banger. F1 25, my team, is cooking this year. Finally, with the transfers. And on top of that, I'm going to reveal my new livery for this upcoming Season 2, along with some changes for the AI teams. Being 2026, it's a pretty big year. We've had an R&D reset in-game, as it is going to be the case in real life, on aerodynamics and the powertrain. So there are plenty of different storylines already beginning before we even turn a wheel for Season 2. After a great initial first season of this brand new My Team 2.0 game mode, we finished 7th in the Constructors' Championship, unfortunately just losing the 6th place we held for quite some time, but we had some really strong competition. Williams, Mercedes, Alpine just ahead of us. Alpine obviously doing that madness of climbing from 7th to 4th in the Constructors in only a matter of a couple of races, as they ended the season with 2 wins in a row. And you can see the rivalry between ourselves and Williams really heated up. Actually, it became came back to be quite close. But by the time we got to Abu Dhabi, there was a little bit of a gap where Williams really did pull away from us. But we dug deep, we fought hard, but we just couldn't get them back in the Constructors' Championship. It was such a solid first season. 2 podiums, 1 fastest lap, 15 top 10 finishes, and 7 Q3 appearances. I really actually can't ask for much more, especially because clearly on this year's game, the AI are a lot more of a challenge in terms of the levels of upgrading they were doing throughout the second part of the season. And that, just like my in-game avatar, it's giving us headaches, it's giving us stress, because we want better. We are trying to aim for better. And that's why right now, for the final couple of days in the activity timeline, whilst we're still in 2025 in-game, I am just working through developing and adapting, as many of these parts as we can, because there is a reset for aero, for powertrain. And if you did miss the last few episodes of Season 1, we've discovered there's an entirely new mechanic now in F1 25 in my team, where no longer do you spend R&D points, you now spend actual money at adapting the parts. And it's just a case of you're kind of bottlenecked more by just the time it takes to adapt those parts and the slots you have available. So we're trying to rattle through them as much as we can. At the same time, we've even got some new parts being developed, because I still had some new parts to come through on the aero and the powertrain. So I'm trying to also, especially with the powertrain, I've basically nearly adapted everything. So I'm actually trying to get some more performance on the car ready for next season. I'm not too sure if I have to readapt the parts then once they get developed, the new ones, but I guess we'll see. But we just get through the activity timeline then, nearly nearing that end of the season end screen, to go into the winter break, to transition into the next season. Just finishing off the last bit. There are some things pending here. You can see in the development slots, the timeline on the calendar says it will take till 19th of Feb. So I'm guessing these things will carry on working away as we transition to the next season. So it's not like there's going to be like a quick jump of, oh, they're all developed over the winter break. There is actually some of those parts will just carry on developing into next season, basically. But it's been a solid one financially for us. We've been well under the cost cap. I'm hoping next season we're going to be spending and earning a lot more money, of course. But to be fair, as it stands right now, if you look at the top right, we've got $5.6 million. That's the most we've had all season long. So I decided to look in to what I wanted to buy for next season and buy it now, because we may as well start the building process. You know, some things will take 30 days. Take it, a case in point, the driver psychiatrist. I thought that would be a good thing to do to boost the focus, because it seems like more than ever, focus really matters for that AI teammate of yours whilst you pick one of the other drivers to drive as every race weekend. A few of you guys pointed that out, and I'm with you on that one. Yeah, the focus seems even more important this year to make sure that your teammate performs and maxes out his potential, because that's what focus is about. That driver reaching their potential with the driver rating they've got. They might have a high rating, but if they have a low focus, they won't get the most out of themselves, basically, let alone the car. But at the same time, I was then also focusing on engineering, and I was thinking chassis initially just for the weight reduction. But I think, honestly, aero. There were quite a few circuits in Season 1 where it was clear we just did not have enough downforce. So let's go for the aero breakthrough to give us another set of aero upgrades to just dive straight into come Season 2. And we already had 3D printing prototyping going on that will reduce the, I think, the development time, of every part, or research time. Either way, it will really help us out, get some new upgrades on the car. And we went ahead and also bought one of the corporate upgrades, which boosts our sponsor discovery for the secondary sponsors by 10%. So I was pretty happy with that. That's 4 facility upgrades pending. That's the most facility upgrades I've had going and coming in at the same time, which is pretty exciting. Gives you the buzz that things are about to start happening into the next season. And speaking about happening, well, it's time to take you back a little bit, guys, to round 13 of last season, Season 1, to re-pick up the story of our driver contract problems, because I left you guys in the dark on purpose to leave you hanging a bit, you know, have the air of a mystery of who we were going to end up signing, you know, because you guys saw that we had some talks and some contract offers fail from Jenson Button, so nothing was guaranteed. I was courting Bortoletto and Antonelli at the same time, and I'm not gonna lie, Kimi Antonelli seemed like a really good candidate. He wanted obviously lower expectations, only fan rating 3, for example, which we were already on or getting to at that point of the season, so would be a very good option. He's still quite low rated for what I think he should be from real life, but obviously in the game, that's how any of the new rookies begin life on the Formula 1 game. But I was still focused on our main drivers, even though I was keeping Kimi there as a backup. Unfortunately, though...
Bad news, I'm afraid. They were dissatisfied with the terms we sent over. You'll have to let us know if you want to go back in for them. I'll await your word.
So Jenson was playing hardball at this stage. The perception was still pretty good for him, but he just wanted better terms, which is fair enough. He's a world champion. He's so high rated compared to his teammate. He's got the burden of being the team leader and steering us in the right direction. So I was just tempted to go for the higher contract. I thought about it, and, you know, when we look at what he's on now, the higher contract, the quote-unquote higher contract we could counteroffer with, is still actually lower than the default contract the game gave me with him, which was 36 million annual. Whereas I think that highest contract was in the 20 region, like high 20s. So it would still be a discount if you think about it. It's a little bit of, you know, chalked maths there, but, you know, that would be a tangible saving to us, you know, in terms of weekly salary. Like, we're already used to paying him that much of a weekly salary, and it would be a reduction to that, even with the highest counteroffer. So we might need to, like, if I really want JB services for this next season, I was thinking we really might need to give him the higher contract. Meanwhile, I was still also talking to Tim Tramnitz, because at this stage around round 13, round 14, it was very clear to me from your guys' comments that you guys, just like me, we've all really grown attached a little bit to Tim Tramnitz. So, I mean, you know, I wasn't really familiar with, like I said, any of the F3 drivers coming into this game and series, but he's been, I mean, what a man. I mean, we've scored so well with him. He's actually had some great performances as an AI as well. So I was ready to send him a contract after those final talks. So at this stage, I have sent a proposal to Tramnitz, and I am now contemplating sending another counteroffer to Button. So at this stage, Antonelli and Bortoletto, they're purely there as backup options. I still want this to be the main lineup going into Season 2, so we go for it.
Okay, we've sent out counteroffer. Try not to worry. A bit of back and forth is normal. That's business after all. I'll be back if I hear any.
But another twist hit us.
Bad news, I'm afraid. They were dissatisfied with the terms we sent over. You'll have to let us know if you want to go back in for them. I'll await your word.
I could not believe it. Tramnitz has declined his contract. Our F3 driver has the audacity to decline the offer. We could keep him in Formula 1. I was really taken aback, but I thought, okay, fine, give him what he wants. We're going to go for the higher likelihood. I want him. And in a weird way, me sending Tim the higher contract, the higher salary contract, I think was a bit of Formula 1 karma, good karma in the air, because this is what happened next.
Great news. They've accepted that contract and signed on the dotted line. We should celebrate. And make sure we figure out how to stop any leaks about it. Nice work getting this one over the line.
We finally got this thing over the line. Jenson Button re-signed for Season 2. We have unfinished business with Button. I want to get him an elusive one last win in Formula 1 at least on his return to the sport with this team that is shaped after his championship winning year, Brawn GP, the colours, everything. So I'm so happy that we've got him. I know a lot of you were maybe debating in the comments that, oh, we should get someone different. He's old, technically, etc. But you got to remember, this is at the end of the day my career mode save, and I love Jenson Button as an F1 driver. I really wanted him there for a second season just to finish off that story, to close that chapter of that book, and then we can move on to write something different with a different driver and grow maybe some more younger talent, like we're trying to do with maybe Antonelli, with Tramnitz, depending on how this goes. And at the moment, it's taking a surprising second turn.
Bad news, I'm afraid. They were dissatisfied with the terms we sent over. You'll have to let us know if you want to go back in for them. I'll await your word.
Tim declines us again. So at this stage, I was gonna pie off Bortoletto. It was now just between Tramnitz and Antonelli. I have talked to both of those drivers 3 times. I have offered Tramnitz 2 contracts that he's declined. This is make or break now in terms of if I offer Tramnitz another contract and he doesn't accept, I thought at this stage we would have to pivot to Antonelli. Bear in mind, I think from memory, this was around round 15. So we were getting to the end of the season. I was a bit nervous of which way this was going to go. I wanted to pin this down before the end of the season. And thankfully, things worked out in the end.
Great news. They've accepted that contract and signed on the dotted line. We should celebrate. And make sure we figure out how to stop any leaks about it. Nice work getting this one over the line.
After 3 rounds of contract talks with both Tramnitz and Button, we got this thing sorted. So we are actually, maybe to some of your guys' surprise, we're keeping the same lineup from Season 1 to Season 2. This is a first. Usually in my team, I'm changing out my teammate every single season, pretty much. Obviously, it's a bit different now because we've got 2 drivers to sign. But the thing is, like I said, there's just so much unfinished business for me personally with JB in this team, and then also Tramnitz. And I know I just could feel the energy from you guys that a lot of you, a majority of you, wanted to see Tramnitz stay on for at least one more season because he earned it. He earned it. As a lower than 70 rated driver, he did some great performances as an AI, and then of course we took him to some great places driving as him. So I feel good about this, knowing that also it's going to be a nice ending point, I think, in Season 2, that we probably look to get someone in to replace Button at the end of Season 2. So kind of knowing that that's a foregone conclusion, I think brings me peace and clarity of where we're taking this team and this story, at least for us. And I think that's going to be good for you guys to also know that that's a definite end point then.
Boss, need to make you aware of something. Another team has made an approach for one of the drivers we're talking to. It's Hard to say how far it's gone, but if you're serious about signing them, I'd advise moving quickly. You can find more details in the driver contract screen.
So even though we were done with our drivers, there was a surprise there at the end. Antonelli maybe being approached by Haas. Is he thinking still about leaving Mercedes? Not for us, though, but for Haas? Maybe like a pipeline to a Ferrari drive in the future, maybe? I mean, it would make sense. Italian driver in the Ferrari Academy leaves the Merc one. That would be a kind of crazy story if that pans out. I guess you're going to have to just wait till the end of the video when we go through the transfers to see if that one actually ends up happening. And speaking of, it is finally now time to transition from the end of Season 1 into Season 2 in-game. The driver contract sorted in the background. I really enjoyed this year having it prolonged over the course of this active season you're in. Before the end, it never made sense for it to all be done at the end, but I think it makes sense to show you guys at the end because it gives you guys a little bit of a surprise and a reason to maybe tune in to the preseason to see the choices I've made and also the choices of the grid, of course. We apparently failed our seasonal goal of finishing 10th or better. I think it's a bit glitched because I think I still got the money for my constructor's position, 5.8 million, although it says $0 at the top, so I'm not too sure on that. I mean, my total is 8.8 million, so I'll take that. That's the most money we've ever had in the save of ours, as we nearly get to fan rating 4, which I'm really anticipating to get some more sponsors on the car, and then also obviously of course just more income coming in. Then we can really start cooking with the facility upgrades, for example, but well under the cost cap. That's all good, and the stats that we saw also already before. At this point, it was time to go through to what I forgot would be our engine supplier selection, because all the details here before that, owner, team identity, most of corporate, is going to stay the same. Aarava Archer Racing with the same colors. You know, it's the team's identity. We won't be changing that, at least into this next season. You know, still very early on in the career series. But we do have an engine to choose, and we've got a whopping $23 million now. I've never seen so much money in this game. I think that's surely from our Constructors Championship position, right? I assume so. But wow, we actually have the funds to do something, and it really makes the engine cost seem quite tiny. But look at this then. I thought I was going to have a pretty simple decision to just stick with Honda because they were pretty good for us. It kind of would keep in line of, you know, sticking with what we know maybe into 2026, but Honda have slipped down to the same performance as the Renault power unit, just with a bit better durability. I guess, obviously, you know, this always happened in the previous F1 games. The engine suppliers would change performance and durability every season, kind of simulating, you know, regulation changes. And of course, here in game, on this game, in this save, we've had a big powertrain regulation change and aero to kind of go in tandem with the 2026 IRL changes. So kind of like almost you may be expect in real life, Mercedes, Ferrari, I feel like in real life they are also going to be taking a step up, and I fear Red Bull and Honda, and I fear Red Bull making their own powertrains will maybe struggle a little bit. Maybe Honda also on their own with Aston might struggle a little bit. So it seems like for us in game here, the choice is clear. It's to either go Merc or Ferrari, and I think it's let's just go. We've got the cash for it. Let's go for max performance, max durability, knowing that that part of the car is in a really sound place. It also makes sense because Buttons had affiliation with Mercedes before. It was a Mercedes-powered Brawn GP car that took him to the World Championship in 2009. So I'm sure he has a few contacts at Mercedes HPP still. So it makes sense. It makes sense. Let's go for Mercedes. We had a nice time with Honda, but they are sadly now not going to be competitive enough for us in 2026. And it's going to really start feeling real now as we reveal to you the brand new calendar for Season 2. 16 rounds with a couple of surprises. We kick things off, though, in the fan favourite Down Under at the Australian Grand Prix before going through to Japan, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. Obviously, Bahrain was a madness for us last season. Even Japan and Saudi Arabia also both delivered some insane racing, first of all, on this game. Then we come to the European portion of the calendar, with Canada chucked in there, of course, as usual. Unlike in real life, where they're actually solving that problem, where Canada is now actually before the European part of the season. But it's Imola, Canada, and then, for the very first time, we are including a reverse track on the career mode calendar. The story here would be, well, look, Formula One is always looking to become more entertaining, more of a show. I think it makes perfect sense for Liberty Media to offer up reverse tracks for Austria and, you can see later on in the season, Zandvoort, because we go from reverse Austria to Silverstone, then to Spa. Hungary makes its addition to the calendar compared to Season 1, and then Zandvoort comes onto the calendar for the first time, but in its reverse layout. You know, I feel like Austria, it was the place where we had 2 races in a row to start that very affected season in 2020. Austria seems to be a place of experiments when it comes to the calendar, so it made sense to have a reverse track there. And then also, if we're bringing Zandvoort, let's bring it back with a reverse version, because at times the normal one can be a little bit stale in the F1 game. I think a reverse version, though, is going to be bonkers. We then go to the typical Italian Grand Prix to round out the European part of the season, and then we've got the flyaways of Brazil, Las Vegas, now Qatar in the middle as the second last race with that high tyre wear. That's going to be a really exciting addition to the calendar just before the season finale in Abu Dhabi. So drivers sorted now, contract sorted, and the team is pretty much sorted apart from continuing development, because we're now into the timeline for Season 2, and the work begins immediately to see where we are with the car and what we can do before the first race of the season. So we've already got some parts on the table waiting to be developed, to quote the head of engineering that keeps popping up with that audio line, because we had researched all these bits, and it looks like, from what I can tell, I think we did end up successfully adapting every single part. Like, the annoying thing is a little bit here is my critique of the new system, the new way this game's presenting things. I think I saw some of you guys also say in the comments, there's no email for anything to, like, let us know how we did with adapting. There was no email to even tell us an R&D reset was on the way, which was maybe nice in a way to surprise us, but at the same time, it would have been nice to have a little heads up to pre-plan a little bit, because you would do that in real life, as we are now met with our weekly resource modifier activate announcement, because this is the resource modifier for 7th place in the constructors. So initially, when we started the season, we were on 115%, because this follows real life with the ATR period, basically, that teams get. And for 6th place, it was 95%. We dropped down to 7th, and so we gained 5%. So now we're at 100% of the resource modifier. Teams below us have more R&D coming in. Teams above us, less, with that sliding scale now for this year's game. The first time they've done it in a My Team career mode. So in a weird way, it's a little bit of a benefit that we lost 6th place in the constructors. Hopefully now we can make use of that a lot more than we maybe did in Season 1, because now, well, we have over $10 million to spend on facility upgrades once the ones I've already got pending come in. And we've got a lot of time here in the activity timeline. We're filling up this timeline with everything we can get, with the driver focus, perception, fan rating, advertisement campaigns, morale, etc., to try and maximize everything. And we've got a decent amount of R&D as well to go ahead and purchasing things, although I really do need to wait for this aero breakthrough to come in, because really the upgrades I want to do are now on aero, like the next set of downforce upgrades, the drag reduction. So it's a little bit of a bottleneck again, waiting for that facility upgrade. But I think, you know, that's the whole point of, you know, the way everything's set up in this game. It makes you wait and work for things, and it makes it really difficult for you to really just start bulldozing through upgrades, and that's making it a challenge versus the AI as we get more developments failing as per usual. We're still trying to get as much done on the car as possible to boost the R&D. Developments are coming in now, thankfully, a few coming in and not failing, and we do get the 3D printing prototyping. So I believe the attribute this had was reducing research time by 15%. So I think now we can start spending R&D on the new air upgrades, and we've got a reduced research time for everything now by 15%, which is going to be great. And the corporate facility has been busy. They're actually doing some work, don't worry. And we've secured another secondary sponsor. That's a pretty cool logo, 7 or 7 even, or however you want to do it. Anyway, that's a good logo. I'm definitely going to use that on the car for sure as we go on through the season. I've been loving, by the way, the different decal variants, which you'll take note of in a little moment later in this video when I show you guys the new livery for Season 2. It really has genuinely been a pleasure to use the decal editor, but now we've got that aero breakthrough on the car, so we're purchasing the DRS upgrade. We've gone for the major drag reduction update, the latest one that only just unlocked now because of that aero breakthrough purchasing, and we've got new front and rear downforces to do. Not going to quite purchase the front one yet, but soon come, and we do have one training point to use in the owner training. Now, we've done a lot on personnel, so I didn't think I want to do anything on personnel. Corporate, I think corporate it's tempting, but I think corporate is really, these next perks, they're more useful, I think, when you've just got a bit of training points lying around later in the career. And I think it's time to shift focus back to engineering, because we did a lot on owner training on the personal side of things during the contract negotiation period, because I wanted to help my chances of re-signing Button. But now I think it's time to focus back on engineering, because if you look on that left-hand side tree, there's a lot of good perks there. So we've gone ahead and gone for the very left-hand side one. We can't do the training quite yet, but soon come. That will come in, and we'll delve into that part of owner training. I think the engineering, just trying to maximize everything we can on the perks, basically, on that side of things. And then we can focus back on personnel and the corporate, as we're met with one of the kind of stories, if you will, pop-ups, the activity events. Misjudged comment during a recent staff event. Member of our chassis team made an off comment. That's ruffled the feathers of the powertrain one. Competition aside, we're a team. We don't want to stoke division. What should we do? I was tempted with back them like it's just a joke, but then I'm thinking in the modern world, I think we're gonna have to go with discipline and just be like, look, we don't need comments like that. Let's just, you know, let's all be a team here. So hopefully that's gonna be a positive attribute. But you may have seen there on the activity timeline, we're basically nearly there to Australia. So it is finally, guys, time to reveal to you what this season's car looks like. You have a little inkling there. We've got a lot of sponsors on the car and a lot of different variants. This is our new baby for 2026. I absolutely love it. You'll notice it is the same base livery as Season 1 because, honestly, hand on heart, for the first time, but pretty much since my team became a thing in 2020, I didn't feel the need to do a full modded livery for Season 2. I actually felt really good about using basically an in-game livery and using all the decal editor to its full potential to make my livery for Season 2 and basically keep it as close as vanilla as possible and kind of keep it relatable to you guys playing at home on console, maybe, that you guys can make a livery like this if you wanted to. I have done some very subtle modding, you'll see, as we look around the car. We've got the different sponsors all there from the decal editor, but you can see I've also modded in now a Puma logo on the side, an Aarava logo on the side upper lip of the side pod, and I'll go through the other additions I've made with some mods. But the rest of it is the base livery. It's the same livery we had last season with a tiny tweak, which I'll get to, but the rest of it is just the decal editor, and I've unlocked some really nice variants of various sponsors, like Octonic, with a really nice variant for the bottom of the side pod there. We've now unlocked the P-metric variant I had my eye on from the very start, which was the P-metric logo on white. That looks like a little ruler, and I think that was a good logo to put on the side where we've got that patterning. We kind of needed a bold outline logo to fit there. And then let's get to the front, the business end, the gorgeous end. We've now unlocked a circle red variant for Slingshot Fuel, which looks really great on the front, I must say. We've now got the nose cone with my logo modded in, and then 3 decals from the editor in-game. It really looks like an actual real F1 team livery there. The little nose part, the logo there, is actually a Mercedes AMG, I think, old school logo that I've modded in on the front, just to denote our engine supplier. And then we've got Slingshot on the front wing, because I felt like Slingshot, I know X4MIG is our main title sponsor. I almost feel like Slingshot is kind of our secondary main big sponsor on the car. So I thought, let's go big and bold with some red on the front wing as well as the end plates. I do want to get that last variant of AF though, I must say. And then as we get to the rear wing, this is the slight modding I've done with the base livery. You'll notice, if you're eagle-eyed enough, the rear wing is actually the rear wing design from our first in-game livery, now spliced with the second livery we unlocked, because I thought I wanted something more interesting on the rear wing, basically. And then, oh ho ho, we come to the best bit that I can do with mods, which is the halo and chassis area, because now we've got a two-tone halo to have a bit of difference there, so it's not all just white. We've got Radford motors either side of the cockpit to go for Jensen Button's car company that he founded, and we've got the Aarava and AMG logos on the top of the chassis that can be seen from the T-cam. So finally, it's not just a full plain T-cam on the top of the chassis. We've actually got something going on there, basically. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. Like I said, for the first time, I've not gone for a full modded livery, only slightly subtly modded, but basically just adding to the in-game livery. So I hope those of you who are wanting me to stick with an in-game livery will appreciate that. And for those of you who maybe wanted a modded livery or something more interesting, hopefully you can still appreciate the subtle modding we've done, and also knowing that probably into Season 3, we definitely will be doing a proper full modded livery, I think, for that next storyline into 2027. But this is the R&D shot then for Season 2. Let's have a look here. Red Bull maintain their top spot on paper, although we know that they were being, challenged quite a fair bit from the cars behind. And Mercedes, after a woeful first season, actually pick up their socks, as they probably will do, and I'm expecting them to in real life, over the winter break into 2026. They've used their, ingenuity with the, big engine regulation changes, and they've become the second best team on paper, and they've really vaulted up. Aston Martin also really improving, so Fernando Alonso making one of the worst career decisions ever, retiring out of Formula 1, just as maybe Aston Martin become a top 3 team. You've still got Alpine and Williams right up there. Alpine and Williams still ahead of Ferrari on the R&D chart, but Alpine, you can clearly see, plateaued quite a bit over the winter, so they couldn't keep up that same rate of development at the end of last season, but they're still going to be pretty competitive. So let's see how they do, and let's see how they progress through this season. And then we have kept in touch with McLaren, which is kind of mad and kind of very poor on them, and we're ahead of Haas, VCarb, and then Kick Sauber, who are now going to be Audi in this season, have taken a massive nosedive over the winter break. You can see on this line chart comparison how far behind Audi are in this second season. They're going to have a real tough time of it. You can see it's very close between ourselves, Haas, McLaren, and VCarb even, and maybe even Ferrari. And then there's a little mid-pack there of Aston, Williams, Alpine, and then I would say Mercedes and Red Bull on their own. But we also know this won't matter too much because, like in Season 1, I'm expecting some big changes through the season. So it's going to be just a complete unknown and really interesting where, you know, where we end up from this starting point, which is already very, very intriguing indeed. So that's the R&D performances of all the teams. So you know where they stand and what they may be expecting at the start of this 2026 season. So now let's get to finally the final bit of this video, the driver transfers, the lineup for this year, and which drivers are expecting what based off their team or new teams R&D performance. But of course, just reconfirming then, we have got Jenson Button alongside Tim Tramnitz for a second season in this game. The first time in my entire My Team career history I have not changed out my teammate or my lineup basically as this year's game. The first time we've got two drivers to sign with a gorgeous new livery ready for 2026. Well, you know who else is ready for 2026? Entering Oscar Piastri to Red Bull Ford. What a madness of a driver transfer to kick off the next season. Red Bull now in partnership with Ford. Max Verstappen is the reigning drivers champion, remember, from 2025, but Red Bull didn't win the Constructors. They were nowhere near the Constructors Championship, but they're entering this season as the best team on paper. I suspect, though, it's mostly going to come from their chassis and aero, because we know their engine is going to be very, very poor, at least poorer than it was last season even. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do at other circuits where top-end speed is needed, but Red Bull clearly wanted something different. They were fed up of losing out Constructors points with just having Verstappen up there. They've gotten rid of Tsunoda and they've brought in Oscar Piastri, who honestly, after the torrid season 1 he had and his much lower driver rating than he deserves a driver move like this. This is going to be an incredible team lineup. Piastri and Verstappen, unreal for Red Bull Ford. And whilst one team is changing quite a lot, another is staying the same in order to hopefully retain consistency, because Alpine, the team that come into 2026 with 2 wins in a row to end last season, they retain their lineup of Pierre Gasly and Jack Doohan. And it's a very similar looking car, a tiny tweak on the rear end to celebrate Alpine's milestone as a company. But it's a case of, well, they ended the season so strong, why change a lot about the car? They're hoping that the car stays the exact same and, you know, has that same performance. Well, we already know from the R&D chart, they've maybe kept the performance, but they've not added. And if you don't add performance in Formula 1, you go backwards. But Alpine were the best upgraders in Season 1. So I actually peg them to come back at the top teams at the moment. They might start a bit slower than they want to, but they've still got a very solid car under them, a much better car than they started last season with, and look where they ended up. 2 wins in a row at the end. So let's see. In contrast, a team scrambling, desperate for change, desperate for performance, are Mercedes. The Silver Arrows have got rid of their rookie, Andrea Kimi Antonelli. Incredibly harsh, by the way, incredibly harsh. But they have got in Carlos Sainz. So the real life rumor that Mercedes at one point were maybe considering Carlos Sainz has come true in the F1 game. Honestly, we've only done, what, 3 teams? And the F1 25 My Team driver transfers are just going nuts. They're so much better than last year's game. We're back to some good transfers. That makes some great storylines, because this is the one that got away. This is the one that got away. Sainz going to Mercedes. That's an incredibly strong lineup on paper. 91 rated Russell, 92 rated Sainz. So he grew by 2 overall last season driving for Williams. And I mean, it's no shock that Merc want Sainz, because he had such a great season for the Mercedes customer team, but now he's driving for the works outfit in a year where clearly we've seen from the R&D chart, Mercedes are using that engine to good use. They've become the second best team on paper, we think. It's going to be a real electric one for the Silver Arrows. They're hoping. They're hoping. And you may have been wondering where Antonelli was going. Where was he going to land after being dropped very harshly by Mercedes after his only first year in Formula 1? Well, you can clearly see he's landed on his feet in a very strong position because he is now alongside Esteban Ocon at Haas. And that contract event that came up when we were courting Antonelli to tell us Haas were talking to him looks like it was genuine and it was actually going through. So Antonelli maybe already knew at that point he was on his way out potentially from Mercedes, and so him and his team pivoted to get him a new drive, and it was almost for us, but instead he found himself at Haas. And like I alluded to earlier in the video, is this maybe the start of the Italian Antonelli pipeline to Ferrari? Because what's the next step from a Haas? It's a Ferrari. He is now driving a Ferrari power unit in that Haas car. I think and I hope that the chess being played out here is going the way I think it is. And maybe one later season we'll see the Italian driver in the Italian team. But for now, he's going to hone his skills at Haas. You got to pull one out, though, and feel very sorry, though, for Antonelli's old F2 teammate, Ollie Behrman. He's been kicked out. He's been replaced by his old teammate. That's a bit harsh from Haas. I think, you know, he needed more time, like Antonelli does, and I hope we see Behrman land somewhere else. And if you hadn't noticed already, this Haas is a slightly different looking Haas into Season 2, as we've got the 200 GP celebration special for the Haas team, as it mimics their original livery from 2016, which is pretty damn cool, I think. As we move on to Williams, one of the other hotshot teams from Season 1, ended strong, beat us out, and having lost Sainz to Mercedes, they have taken the outgoing Tsunoda. He had nowhere to go. He's out of the Red Bull program, and he's landed at a place that will cherish him. And I think this is a good synergy team. I think Albon and Tsunoda off track get on well in real life. You know, they're both very feisty drivers on track, and Williams donning a slightly altered livery with some more baby blue in there, some different shades of blue and different shapes going on. A Williams logo on the engine cover subtly underneath the Atlassian logo. And for Williams, kind of like Alpine, they're just hoping they can continue what they did at the end of last season and pressing on. At many times in the last third of the Season 1, Williams were the best Mercedes power team. So now maybe they've got the works team to contend with again into 2026. But if they just carry on plugging away, who knows where they can go. They've still got that same spirit. They've still got Albon there, and Albon had some great results along with Sainz last season, so they're not totally lost out on that experience from what they had. And with some renewed energy with Tsunoda, they can maybe go quite far. A team that won't be going quite far unless they solve their, well, clearly correlation problems of the car is Aston Martin Honda now into 2026. The Japanese outfit powering Aston Martin exclusively. And they've got an all-new lineup. Fernando Alonso retires, and they have gotten rid of Lance Stroll. I cannot believe it. They've actually done it. This is how you know the transfers are working very well, because on last year's game, Stroll literally just stayed at Aston the whole time, even with the limited transfers we had. There was no hope in chance. But here, he's gone immediately. He has gone immediately, and they've got a very left field lineup, I must say. They've gone for Liam Lawson and Franco Colapinto. I mean, I'm sure Colapinto brings some financial backing. He'll bring the fans as well with him. Lawson, well, clearly he's left the Red Bull program then, and he's gone to Aston. He's actually found himself a pretty tidy seat, because Aston Martin now with Adrian Newey, now with a Honda power unit, they have got big ambitions and plans as a works outfit in Formula 1. But we saw at the end of last season, so up and down, they need to solve that before they go anywhere anytime soon. We now move on to the next team, VCARB, the place where Lawson just left us from, and Hajar is now the de facto team leader with 1 year's experience, although Paul Aaron, the incoming new debutant rookie in Formula 1. He's actually one higher rating. That's how low Hajar was in the base game. Really a shame, but this is a bit more like it. He deserved to be this rating at the start of the game, to be honest. But also, by the way, really great to see in this that clearly all the AI drivers are actually growing at quite a decent pace. Like, it's really good to see that they're growing by a couple of rating points. From only one season alone. So keep it coming, I hope, and hopefully we'll see some of these youngsters get up to, like, you know, high 80s to 90s maybe by the time we're into like a 4th or 5th season. But this is Hajar leading the way. Obviously in real life has become a real solid Formula 1 driver, and Paul Aaron in many ways maybe missed out on a Formula 1 seat in real life. Well, here he's left Alpine as a reserve and he's joined the Red Bull family and stepped into the Bull's den, as it were, I think. We now move on to a team whose fall off will need to be studied for generations to come. McLaren, now with Lando Norris and Lance Stroll. What is going on? What the hell is going on at McLaren? They started this career mode as the best team on the grid. They ended Season 1 as the 3rd worst team. They've clawed it back a little bit, but they've lost Oscar Piastri, a growing Oscar Piastri, to one of their bitter rivals, Red Bull, and they have only been able to secure the services of Lance Stroll. Oh, wow. The fall-off is complete. The fall-off is complete. Stroll has found a car suitable for his driver rating, his performances, and it's the McLaren now these days, because that's how woeful it was in race pace terms consistently at the end of last season. Lando is for some reason still staying very loyal to the Papaya outfit, but I feel like at some point he's going to have to jump ship unless McLaren makes a miracle recovery. But oh boy. So yeah, McLaren for a 3rd season in a row, they don't change their livery, but this time it's not because they want to pay homage to a reigning constructors car. It's because they need to bloody work on the car, not the aesthetics. But you'll be glad to know that is very much not the case for Scuderia Ferrari, the reigning constructors champions, coming into 2026 and now donning a yellow and red Ferrari livery. They retain Leclerc and Hamilton, the pairing that secured them their first Constructors' Championship in a long old while, and it's their 17th Constructors' Championship as a team since 1962 to 2025, and that is the graphic you see on their front wing, the rear wing, and the engine cover. A 17 with the prancing horse in the middle and the dates of their first championship to their most recent one in 2025. This is a classy livery from Ferrari to celebrate their Constructors' Championship. What remains to be seen is if either of their drivers, Leclerc or Hamilton, could fight for a Drivers' World Championship, because I thought at one point they might do last season, but they just fell off a little bit. You know, engine failures creeped in, mistakes, poor qualifyings, penalties at the wrong time, and so individually they couldn't mount a challenge. But as a team, this team won it all. So Ferrari, as a team, they just need to keep doing what they're doing and revel in this celebration of their 17th championship. And oh, how much Audi would love to come into Formula 1 and start going for a championship. But as we've seen with their R&D, they've got a lot of work to do as the latest manufacturer in Formula 1. In red, black and white, Audi retain their pairing of Nico Hülkenberg and Gabriele Bortoleto, probably what they'll likely do in real life as well, so it works out in the end. But unfortunately, like we saw maybe with last year's F1 game as well, we might not be seeing a lot of Audi maybe in terms of on the TV broadcast and the replay cameras, because they're going to be quite slow. But there's hope. Other AI teams, other midfield teams have upgraded rapidly, so maybe it's just a case of Audi needing to get those facility upgrades, and then they can make a charge. So keep in touch. Maybe in a few seasons to come, this team might actually be challenging for something more than the wooden spoon. But that is your 2026 grid, Season 2 What a lineup it is. What a set of driver transfers. I'm so thankful the increased setting has actually worked, and it's worked wonders. We have got a great lineup for this upcoming season. Also, as usual, a massive shout out to some of the livery mods that I've got from overtake.gg. There'll be links down below in the description to any of the mods that are not mine, that I've not made personally, and then some of them I have actually made myself. And with that, we've gone through everything. Driver contracts, the new calendar, our new car, the new R&D chart, and the new lineup. That has been a pretty thorough, but I hope you'll agree, very exciting pre-season video for Season 2 of this My Team career. Guys, if you have enjoyed it, hit the like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'm going to leave you guys waiting just a little bit for the start of Season 2, because as I upload this, I am actually away right now at Le Mans, but it will be worth it. Season 2 will kick off on Monday evening, so stay tuned to this channel then for Season 2. Till then, goodbye.